Hello. Welcome to the Glad to Be Human show. I'm Irene O'Garden. I am so excited to be able to share this lovely woman with you all, Annabel Monaghan. Uh,
Hello.
she's coming from the snowy reaches of Rye, New York,
Yep.
and we're here in the snowy reaches of Garrison, New York. But before we start our show, I will play the theme song that I always love to play for one and all. So let's just take a deep breath and let it go. So welcome. It's hard to calm down after being so excited that you're here. So I'm going to go right back to the exciting part. Um, Let me tell some of our viewers who might not be familiar with your work a little bit about you. Annabel Monaghan is the author of 2 novels for young adults, A Girl Named Digit and Double Digit, which were published by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. She's also the author of Does This Volvo Make My Butt Look Big?, which is a collection of her essays based on her column in the Huffington Post, The Week, and the Rye Record. And Annabel is also co-author of Click, The Girl's Guide to Knowing What You Want and Making It Happen, Simon & Schuster. And she graduated with a BA in English from Duke University and an MBA in finance from Wharton School at the University of Country Son. Please welcome Annabel. Yay. Welcome, Annabel.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Anytime I can see your
Now,
face,
we've been
I'm happy.
having, oh, well, such a delight to have you. I should let our viewers know we've been having a little, I don't know if it's the snow. Occasionally we're freezing up, but just be patient. Our voices will return. The screen will thaw, just like winter will thaw.
I hope.
So Annabel, here's a question. So, first of all, I didn't know that you were a finance person before we
Weird.
had this conversation. And yet I think about digit and double digit, which are smart young girls doing this smart young heroine. Did you start out that way? Are you digit? Are you the real digit?
I wish I was the real Gidget and I was a surfer, but I am not. I am digit, except that I am not a genius. I am a person who was kind of uncomfortable with herself in high school. I really like math. I like everything about math. I find it fascinating, but I'm not really that good at math. I just like it, and I like a puzzle and to solve a puzzle. And so she very much in her, sort of insecure ways, trying to figure out who she is at 17. She carries a lot of me. But I decided to, make her a little taller and make her a genius because if you can, why not?
Well, this is great because there are so many young women who are going to be completely enriched by this. So if you folks have not read this, this is great. And if you know young people, get it into their hands.
Yeah.
But
I
many
hate
of our...
thinking.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
I hate thinking that there are young girls out there who have some kind of a talent or a gift that they're hiding from, because they just want to be regular, or they just want to be sort of mainstream. And the whole idea behind this story is that you've got to own up to your gifts because it's sort of your responsibility. So that's what it's about. I'm waiting for you to come back, you sweet woman. I wonder if I'm frozen too. It's a mystery. Hmm. Plot thickens.
Uh, did you
You're
hear
back.
that? You're back. You're back.
Hi. No,
Hi.
I was having a quiet moment by myself.
Oh, so somebody says, I think we're still here. John just emailed, gave a little comment here. So I think we're still present.
All right,
Um,
good.
so, but well, there went that ebb and flow of easy conversation. We'll just
Isn't
get
that
that.
always the way?
We'll just get that back. So I actually didn't hear the other end of your answer about, did it take you a while to find your comfort level with your gifts?
Yes. Yes. And my gifts are not anything that Mensa would ever be involved with. I have a few things that I'm pretty good at. But I sometimes think that when you are in middle school and maybe you're a young teenager, you cling to the things that are most like the people around you. I
Hmm.
always wished my name was Jennifer. Like there were so many Jennifers around, and I just like, why do I have to have this weird cow's name? I think people want that. But probably not you as a child, Irene. I'm guessing you did not want to be like the people around you.
Oh, I completely hated my name. I wanted to be a Cindy. I would have been happy to be an Annabelle. Irene was just
Would you?
like an old lady name. Yeah,
I
yeah,
like it. I like it.
old lady name. So well, now we have come into our own. Were you a funny
Yes.
kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my job in the family. I was like the court jester in my family, and I was there to break the tension. So I was sort of on.
Wow. Big family, little family?
I have an older brother and I have an older sister.
Hmm.
There were three of us. But I'm the baby, and that was
Hmm.
I didn't have any other role besides that. It was just to like, oh, that was fun. Maybe put on a little show. I put on a lot of shows,
Oh,
and that was
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I did. I was a bit of an entertainer.
I like that. Like, oh, I hope our audio is back. I'm
I can
learning
hear you.
from one of our listeners that we were having audio issues. I hope that has been resolved. Um, so, what was the inspiration for the Volvo? The
So,
Volvo and this book and these columns. How did you happen into all of this? Which I don't think you
I
happened
really
into.
did.
I'm sure you
No, I
clearly
actually
intended.
did happen. It happened. I just kind of fell into it. I was waiting for a girl named Digit to be published, and I had been writing so much. When you finish a book and you're waiting for it to be published, you've been typing forever, and then it was over, and I'm waiting for the book to come out, and I don't have anything to write. And someone mentioned that the small town paper of the small town that I live in was looking for somebody to write sort of a mom column, just something about everyday life. And I picked up the phone without even really thinking about it. And I said, please hire me. And they said, this is how hard this job was to get. They said, okay, that was it. And then from then on, I had a column, and it kind of picked up in popularity, and it got picked up in other places, and it became sort of a thing. And it's just, my columns are usually just about whatever's happening at the time. If I think that it's at all something other people can relate to. And they're usually mildly amusing, but just sort of,
Oh,
slices
they're more than
of
mildly
just,
amusing.
oh,
There are
thank you.
several belly laughs available to the readers of this book.
Well, thank
So
you. And
yes.
then I just decided that it would be fun to put them all together. Like I realized at some point, I'm like, I think maybe I'm writing my life story, or this is like a memoir. I don't know what this is, but every
Mhm.
2 weeks, I'm churning out some like big piece of my life. And so I put them together. I had a lot of titles, and I
Mhm.
ran them all by my funny son. I have a funny son, and that's the only one that made him laugh. So I said, okay, I guess that's our title. So here we are.
It makes all of us laugh when we hear
Well,
it.
thank you.
As a matter of fact, I believe you might have found a little excerpt that you could read for us today so
I
that
do.
those
I have one.
who don't
Uh,
know.
the reason I thought of this is that if you're not in New York, we just got 2 feet of snow. Is that right? 2 feet?
Mhm.
It's horrible. And I'm from Los Angeles. And when I tell you that when I first moved here, I honestly couldn't, I just didn't understand what was falling from the sky. And so I thought of that today because there's a piece in this book called A Californian in Winter. So here we go. No matter how long we're away and how pale we become, there are subtle ways to spot a Californian. We say freeway instead of highway. We wait in line instead of online. Pop quiz, do you happen to know the date of the Academy Awards this year? If you do, you're probably a Californian. An even easier way to spot Californians is to expose us to a little weather. We miss the childhood of snowmen and mittens. And if we look a little baffled, it's because we were not bred for this stuff. There's so much to know about snow. My Canadian husband throws around terms like heavy snow and wet snow, and my half Canadian kids know which is good for snowmen. Apparently, snow itself is not the enemy, unless it brings wind and becomes a blizzard, and that will knock out your power lines. And then snow's a big deal. When the temperature warms a few degrees above freezing, I foolishly think that things are getting better. But those in the know brace themselves for the mini melt and subsequent refreeze that will turn my driveway into an ice rink. My kids understand this process the way I grew up understanding why you turn your beach towel with the movement of the sun to avoid an imbalanced suntan. This information has not proved to be useful to me in the past few months. I've learned that ice is worse than snow in the same way that the stomach flu is worse than a 2-hour massage. There's something called ice rain, which can be explained to Californians in this way. It's like if you opened up your poolside ice maker and just started chucking the cubes around, but it's not as fun. And as it turns out, ice can form in your pipes, freezing them until they burst. And oddly enough, the resulting flood comes out in liquid form rather than cubes. Why isn't it frozen? People in the Northeast understand this because they're practically scientists. Worse than that regular ice is the sinister black ice, which is sneaky and invisible and so deadly that roads and schools shut down in fear. Black ice broke my babysitter's wrist, and she's got 6 to 10 more weeks in a cast. I've recently learned the term ice dam, which is a catastrophe that elicits empathetic nods from people around here. It's pretty much the worst thing that can happen to you, and there's no cure. I like to think of an ice dam as the herpes of winter. Explaining all of this to my friends and family in Los Angeles is a bit like explaining the plot of Star Wars to George Washington. It's a different world with different rules and constraints. And unless you've cruised in the Millennium Falcon, you really can't understand what it's like. Why are your kids home from school again? They ask. What do you mean Tom's car is frozen in? It's times like this that I feel like California is light years away. And I've seen things from their side. I happened to be stranded in Los Angeles during Hurricane Sandy, and I heard it was a real whopper. I'd be sitting poolside listening to my husband on the other end of the phone. He'd say, "It's 30 degrees in our house. A tree fell on our deck." And I'd think, that sounds terrible, but didn't I ask for salt on my margarita? In defense of Californians, it's incongruous to try to wrap your head around that freezing wet horror when you smell like sunscreen. It almost sounded like they were making the whole thing up. I'm slowly learning my way around shoveling, de-icing, and salting. I know the joy that comes from seeing the dry blacktop on my driveway. But here's another phrase I never knew growing up: green shoots. The green shoots that poke out of the ground on the first warmish day of spring are the visual embodiment of hope. The exhilaration that they bring to our still bundled selves is like a double paddle of the defibrillator, a small payback for winter. It's a rhythm that mimics life, the dark days followed by the magnolia blossoms, and it's almost worth it. Almost. Yeah.
Yay!
It really feels like today. I mean, I
It
walk
does.
outside today and I stepped into snow up to my knees, and I thought, why do we live here? What are we doing?
Yeah, in just a few weeks, though, we're gonna have that. I love that, the living embodiment of hope. That's just
We'll have
such
we'll
an
have green shoots, and I'll get a vaccine. It's gonna be good.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah. Hope is here. Hope is
yep,
already here.
yep.
Well, and speaking of hope, another exciting development for you during this pandemic is that you finished a new book. Yes.
I did. I did, and I really loved writing this book. And I wonder if anyone will enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it because it was just fun. It was a really, really fun, easy process. It's a humorous love story about a family. Takes place. I think it takes place in a town I made up, someplace between where you live and where I live.
Mhm.
That's my guess. I may have to come visit you for
Oh,
research.
absolutely.
Uh,
Research very important. Very important.
Yeah. So I hope it takes a life form. But it's just really it's a rare thing that when you're writing something, you're having as much fun as I did. It was a really fun process.
I'm sure that that just exudes from the book. And this is not always the easiest thing what we do. I know that you've also taught writing. We mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
How do you tell students who are not in that floaty, wonderful period of just can't wait to get back to the computer? What do you advise them? People who are doing that difficult struggle with writing.
It's sort of like being married. You know, when you meet somebody and you're so madly in love and it's like, "Oh, this is so great and it's so easy." And then you're married for a while and you're like, "Huh, I guess this could use a little work." I think it's like that, and I think that writing can be really hard. And I don't know if this is actually true, but I believe this. If you're writing something and you are bored writing it and think, God, I want to go watch TV, the chances are that what you're writing is boring. But if you're writing something and you're enjoying it, then you're in some kind of a flow. So I think the trick is to like fall in love with the right story. And then it just becomes
Mm,
easier. Um,
uh-huh.
and you should fall in love with the right partner too, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. This is actually good advice.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Um, but I think
Makes
it
marriage
does sort of
easier,
take
yes.
on a life of its own. And then going
Mhm,
back and turning it into a story that actually works, that's work.
mhm, mhm.
But the inspiration, I think it should feel good.
Ah, wonderful. This is like treasure, treasure. And is there anything one can do if one knows that there's something there, but just having some? What do you do if you love the project you're working on, but you hit a little roadblock? Well, how do you loosen out of that?
Well, okay, I like to play games with myself because I am my own worst enemy. So I like to say things like, I'm just writing this for fun. No one's ever going to read this. And then I feel like I'm alone, and I just, who cares? Like the pressure's off. So I just give myself a little
Mhm.
goal to get going with it. And then I also wonder if I have the right person in the story. Like, is the
Mm.
character right for the story? Are they a match? Because if the character's not making the story happen, then maybe I needed to put a different person in that place.
Huh. Oh, that's great. That's a great idea. Do you take notes like during the day? Do you like go, oh, that could work for the
Yes,
book, or do you tend to sit down and say, okay, now is my time, and I open up to the muses and you
I do a lot of candle lighting and weird stuff for sure. But no, I make notes, when I'm driving, when I'm walking my dog. I'm always talking into that note thing on my phone.
I love that.
Um,
Okay,
be-
I make
yeah,
notes. This is like
notes.
the new world, right? Before we used to,
I know. I
wow,
think it's
because I
I
know
think
we
it's
have a
and
couple of
not rights.
writers watching, so.
Yeah, I think that,
Oh.
and I'm, as I get a little bit older, I don't remember the idea I had 5 minutes ago. So it is now time for me to write more stuff down.
Do you transcribe then? You listen to your voice and then you transcribe during
Yeah,
writing
no, or I
sessions?
make a text note and then I email it to myself, and then I stick it in the document, and then I come back later, I'm like, what? Bananas? What is she talking about? But sometimes it does help.
Oh, that is great. That's great. And what was the inspiration for the latest book? I know about it, and I know you have somebody who's very interested in it, so this is really good. But where did you find the inspiration for this book?
You know what the inspiration is? Do you ever watch? I know for sure you don't, but some of us watch these made-for-TV romance movies on the Hallmark Channel. There are people that watch these. It's
Oh,
too
of
good. It's not
course.
good. It's not good enough for you. Like,
It's
trust me, but
important.
they're
It's
done.
important.
But I watched those over a period. I was recovering from surgery, and I watched them over a period of time. And I thought, who writes these movies? Like, what kind of a person? Like, I just kind of became fixated on the person who would write formulaic, 120-minute movies that are practically all the same for the Hallmark Channel. And then that person became a character. So that's sort of where it came from. And so television is not a waste of time.
Wow. Oh, that's good. So do you just walk around in that state of receptivity?
Yes.
This is
And then
good.
you're always
You
trying to
know,
get back.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Where did that go? Where did that go?
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things that I so admire about you, Annabel, is you have a really strong sense of community. I was fortunate to be part of a writers series that I know that you curate at the Rye Library. I've seen you on your guys. One of the funniest things I've ever seen, Annabel Monaghan on a red carpet of her own creation, doing an Oscar fundraiser for a wonderful local community organization. How does this figure into your life just generally? I mean, where does this community sense come from, and how important is that to those of us who write?
Oh gosh. I first of all, if you write, it's really nice to have an audience. And my first audience has been you need a reader. My first audience has really been my town. And like this column that I write really started in my local paper. And I
Mhm.
was mortified, to write a personal essay in your local paper in a really small town. I thought I was terrified about it. And day after day, people would come up to me and say, you know what, that was great. Keep going. And really, like, I feel like they created something in me and like gave me a confidence. So I have gotten so much from my community that now, like, it is so like the fact that I could bring you to my community. I mean, I'm practically they're going to be mayor for doing that. But it is, that's, I mean, anything that I can do to support. There's just a lot of really great organizations. And I feel
Mhm.
like that sort of stuff is creative too. It's wonderful to know other writers. I mean, knowing other writers sort of just makes you feel like you're not going crazy.
It's true. It's true. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about Read 650, which is a favorite
Mm,
organization of mine, and it's one of the places you and I get to see each other.
yeah. I didn't understand what it was. And I was so mesmerized the first time that I went. It's authors reading personal essays. Um, 650 words or less. You don't have to hear people talk for too long, and it's always on one topic. So everybody talks about, high school or whatever the topic is. I honestly, you get nervous when you have to get up and read. I became so mesmerized by that show every time I was part of it that I forgot it was my turn to get up and read. I mean, that is they have created something there that is such a just like a valuable thing. I encourage
I
anybody once it's up and running. When will it be up and running
Yeah.
again?
This is Ed McCann is the founder, and Richard Kolath gives him a great hand. And I'm not sure when they're going to come back to physical performance, but if anybody's really, you should know about this organization. You should look up Read 650, and you can see wonderful videos of Annabel reading. I have a couple, John has a couple,
Yeah.
and you can also submit 650 word personal essays. You'll find a list of topics that will be the upcoming shows. And they're still kind of working out how are we doing this without physically standing up and seeing one another. But
Yeah.
there is a beautiful archive of work there. And for those of you who are interested in getting really specific about writing, I highly recommend that you submit a piece to
Yeah, I
read
agree.
650.
And it's hard to say something in 650 words. You know, if you only have 650 words, you really chose them carefully. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I can't wait until we're all back in a room together.
Yes. It's hard to do. Um, yay. Okay.
Oh,
Here we
hi.
go. Which also, no. There we are. Phew, we're
You
back.
you caught me with my big glass of vodka.
Yeah. Well, phew, I'm glad because we have to be chill here.
Yes,
Well,
of course.
I know we only have just a few more minutes, and I also like to thank everybody for sticking with us in spite of this difficulties in terms of connections. But I always like to ask my guests, what makes you glad to be human? So, Annabelle, what makes you glad to be human?
You're gonna think I'm making this up, but honestly, it is meeting someone like you. It makes me so glad to be human when I get to randomly meet a human who I would never meet, and I just speak to them for 5 minutes, and then I have a feeling that they are going to become important in my life. And
Hmm.
it's just, I wonder, do dogs do this? I don't know. They sniff around each other. I don't know, but there's something in connecting with another human being, like on a meaningful level, that
Mhm.
is just it is wonderful. I'll tell you, I read your book on one flight. I was flying from New York to California, and I got on the plane with all my luggage, and I'm glad to be human. I start reading. I got off that plane, and I was as light as a feather, and I felt ready to write. I felt ready to create. I just so I that's what makes me glad to be human.
Oh, well, thank you. That is so
Well, you're welcome.
sweet.
I really mean
And
that.
that is all that I would ever aspire to, yeah, as a writer is to inspire someone else to write and have somebody feel good about being alive in this
Yeah.
incredible world that we inhabit, and watching for
Yep.
those little spears of hope to be coming up.
That's right. And we should be opening each other up.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. And well, and so you have.
Mhm.
I'm feeling very open after our
Good.
conversation.
Well, thank you.
Annabelle, how do people get your book? How do they find you? Can you give us some web addresses, some Facebook, something or other that people who want
Uh,
to keep in touch can do?
that would be so nice. So my website is annabelmonaghan.com. And my name is probably on the screen. There's a G in Monaghan. It's all very complicated.
Mhm.
And my Facebook and my Instagram and my Twitter are all Annabel Monaghan. My books are available wherever books are sold. So please be in touch.
Amen. And tell them
Amen.
you saw it on the Glad to Be Human show.
Yes,
I'm going to play us out with our
I love it.
theme song here. Thanks, everyone. We'll
Bye.
see
Thank
you
you,
next
Irene.
time. Thanks, Annabelle.
Mwah.
Mwah.